Evelyn Gray, her silk gown the color of morning sky, staggered backward, one hand covering her cheek, the other resting protectively over the curve of her pregnant belly. The slap had been loud enough to silence the rich. No one moved. Someone muttered, "Jesus, did he just?" Another whispered, "Don't get involved." The air thickened with fear and perfume. At the back of the room, behind a serving cart, a little girl's hand tightened around a napkin. Anna Williams, 6 years old, stared in disbelief. She had followed her mother, Diana, to work because the babysitter canceled, and the manager had promised to let it slide just this once. Now she wished they had stayed home. Thomas's voice sliced through the silence again. "You ruined the whole evening, Evelyn. You embarrassed me in front of investors." "I'm sorry," Evelyn whispered, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean." "Didn't mean?" His laughter was sharp and cruel. "You never mean to. You're pathetic." Evelyn's eyes brimmed with tears. She tried to step away, but Thomas grabbed her wrist. Anna's heart thudded against her ribs. She could see the woman's face, the same kind of tired her mama wore after long shifts, and something inside her twisted. "Mama," she whispered. He hit her. Diana's breath caught. "Don't look, baby. Please, keep quiet." But Anna couldn't. When Thomas lifted his hand again, Anna broke free from her mother's grasp and ran forward, her small voice cutting through the hush. "Stop hurting her." The crowd gasped. The band stopped entirely. Dozens of eyes followed the tiny figure in the yellow dress, standing beneath a chandelier taller than her apartment building. Thomas froze mid-motion, his face a mask of shock turning into fury. "What did you say?" Anna's knees shook, but her chin lifted. "Stop hitting her. She's going to have a baby." The words hung in the air like a prayer no one expected. Sometimes it takes the smallest voice to remind us what real courage looks like. If this moment touched your heart, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more powerful stories that stay with you long after they end. "Who are you?" Thomas demanded, stepping toward her. "Who lets a child run wild like this?" "I said stop hurting her," Anna shouted again, louder. "You're supposed to protect her, not hit her." He blinked, disbelief curdling into contempt. "Protect her? You don't know what you're talking about. Go back to your toys." "No," Anna shook her head. "You're the one who doesn't know. You don't hit someone you love. You don't hurt a baby." Murmurs rose among the guests. A woman near the front whispered, "My God, she's right." Thomas turned to the crowd, smiling his thin, false smile. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is absurd. Someone remove this child." He snapped his fingers at security. No one moved. Then Diana burst forward, breathless, pulling Anna behind her. "Don't you dare talk to my daughter like that." Thomas raised an eyebrow. "Your daughter? You work here, don't you?" "Yes," Diana said, voice shaking but loud enough for everyone to hear. "And I'm not ashamed of it. But you should be ashamed hitting your pregnant wife in front of all these people." "Ugh." A murmur swept through the crowd like wind through dry leaves. Thomas's smile faded. "Watch your mouth, or you'll regret it. I already regret that my little girl had to see a man like you act like a monster." Diana's hands trembled, but her words came steady now. "You think your money makes you untouchable? It doesn't. Not tonight." Someone near the bar said, "She's right. This is disgusting." Another voice, older and rough, added, "We all saw it, Gray. Don't pretend it didn't happen." Thomas turned toward the growing rumble of voices. "You people don't understand. She provoked me." Evelyn flinched. "Thomas, stop." A man in a tuxedo stood from his table. "You hit a woman carrying your child. There's no excuse for that." "Yes," a woman called. "Apologize to her." The room began to shift, fear giving way to anger. Guests who had been silent moments before now spoke over one another. "Call the police," someone shouted. "This is assault." Thomas's composure cracked. He looked around, realizing the tide had turned. The same people who once admired him now glared with disgust. Anna clung to her mother's leg, eyes wide but unblinking. Thomas pointed at them, voice low and venomous. "You did this, both of you." Diana held her ground. No, sir. You did this when you forgot you were supposed to be a man. The crowd murmured their agreement. The hotel manager stepped forward awkwardly. Mr. Gray, perhaps you should leave. Security has been called. Security? Thomas spat. You're firing me? Do you know who I am? But his power was slipping. The murmurs had become a wall of condemnation. Cameras were out. Phones recording. Every angle of his face caught in the light of 100 judgments. Evelyn stepped toward Diana and Anna, her voice trembling but firm. Thank you, she whispered. Thomas's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He turned and stormed toward the exit, his wife following a few steps behind. As the doors slammed shut, applause broke out, not loud, but fierce and raw. A man at the bar raised his voice. That little girl's got more courage than all of us combined. Diana looked down at Anna, tears shining in her eyes. You did good, baby, she whispered. You did what was right. Anna leaned into her mother's arms, whispering, I just didn't want the baby to get hurt. Diana kissed her forehead. And that's what makes you braver than most grown-ups. Around them, the guests began to talk, some shaking their heads, others still stunned by their own silence. The jazz band packed up quietly. The night that had begun as a celebration had turned into something else entirely, a reckoning. As they left the ballroom, the rain outside had started to fall, warm and steady. Diana held Anna's hand as they stepped into the wet glow of the streetlights. Mama, Anna said softly. Do you think he'll ever say sorry? Diana looked up at the dark sky and sighed. Maybe one day, when he learns what being a real man means. Anna nodded, her eyes reflecting the city lights. He shouldn't have done that. Not to her, not to the baby. Diana smiled sadly. No, sweetheart. But tonight, you showed him that people still care. As they disappeared down Canal Street, the hotel loomed behind them. Its golden glow dimmed. Inside, the echo of a child's voice still lingered, the sound that had made an empire tremble. The night after the gala, the Roosevelt Hotel was quieter than usual. The chandelier lights had been dimmed, the carpet still smelled faintly of spilled champagne. And a few reporters stood outside under umbrellas, hoping for a statement that would never come. Inside a small apartment several miles away, Diana sat by the window holding a cup of cold coffee that she'd forgotten to drink. The rain hadn't stopped since midnight. It drummed against the glass, steady and relentless, like the sound of her thoughts. Anna slept in the next room, curled under her blanket, one arm around her stuffed rabbit. She had cried herself to sleep, not from fear, but from anger she didn't know how to name. Diana glanced at her daughter, and then at the envelope sitting on the table. It was from the hotel, thin, official, cruel in its simplicity. Effective immediately. Your employment is suspended pending review of inappropriate behavior at last night's event. The words blurred as her eyes filled. She wiped them quickly, unwilling to let the tears win. Inappropriate, she whispered. Because I told the truth. She thought about Thomas Gray's face, about the arrogance that had filled the room, and about how the crowd had turned from fear to fury in seconds. But she also remembered the security guards, the cameras, the PR people whispering into their phones before she'd even left the ballroom. Powerful men didn't lose easily. The phone rang. It was Marcus. Diana, you okay? His voice was rough, tired. They fired me this morning. She took a breath. I'm suspended. You? Same thing. HR said there's an investigation. But you know what that means. She did. It meant they'd been marked as troublemakers. Marcus, she said quietly. Thank you for standing up. He chuckled bitterly. You and that kid of yours did the hard part. I just followed your lead. In the background, Anna stirred and called softly. Mama? Diana turned, forcing a smile. Go back to sleep, baby. But Anna sat up, eyes wide and wet. They said on the TV that we were lying. Diana froze. Where did you hear that? The news. They showed him, the man from last night. He said everyone misunderstood. He said he never hit her. Anna's little voice shook. But I saw him. I know, Diana said, moving to her side. Some people don't like the truth, sweetheart. They try to bury it. Can they bury it forever? Anna asked. Not forever, Diana whispered, stroking her hair. Not if we keep speaking. Morning came gray and heavy. The rain had stopped, but the air smelled like metal and secrets. Outside their door, an envelope lay under the mat. No return address. No name, just a small white card inside that read, "Keep quiet. For your own good." Diana's stomach turned cold. She looked down the hallway. No one. The walls felt closer than usual. She tore the card in half and threw it away, though her hands were still shaking. Later, as Anna ate cereal at the table, Diana turned on the small television again. Thomas Gray's face filled the screen, calm and controlled. The headline read, "Philanthropist denies abuse allegations at charity gala." A reporter's voice echoed. Mr. Gray stated that his wife experienced a fainting spell and that false rumors have been spread by an overzealous employee. Then they showed footage from the ballroom, the brief moment before the slap. The camera angle conveniently missed the rest. That's not what happened, Anna cried. He's lying. Diana turned the TV off. Yes, he is, but the truth doesn't always get airtime. She knelt beside her daughter. Listen to me. You did the right thing. Don't ever doubt that. Around noon, Marcus arrived carrying a brown paper bag with 2 sandwiches. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. They're trying to bury everything, he said. I heard from one of the busboys' management deleted the footage from the security cameras. All copies. All of them? Maybe not all. He hesitated. There's talk. One of the tech guys made a backup before they wiped the system, but he's scared. Diana frowned. Scared of what? Gray's lawyers. They called the hotel this morning. They want silence. Anna listened quietly from the couch, hugging her rabbit. Can't the police make him tell the truth? She asked. Marcus smiled sadly. Sweetheart, the police need evidence. Right now, all they've got are scared people. Anna looked down. But he hurt her. Yes, Marcus said softly. And that's why we have to find proof. A knock on the door made them both jump. Diana opened it cautiously. A woman stood there in a gray trench coat, her hair tied back, her eyes alert but kind. Mrs. Williams? My name's Maya Torres. I'm a reporter with the Times, Picayune. May I come in? Diana hesitated. We don't want more trouble. I understand, Maya said, gently, but I was at the gala. I saw enough to know something happened. And I think you and your daughter have something people need to hear. They let her in. Maya sat at the kitchen table. Notebook open. Recorder off. This isn't an interview, she assured them. I just want to understand. Off the record. For now. She listened as Diana described what had happened. The shout. The slap. The silence. Anna interrupted sometimes, her small voice fierce. He hit her right here, she said, touching her own cheek, and she cried. She didn't even scream. She just looked sad. Maya's pen stopped moving. Did you see anyone filming? Marcus nodded. A few guests had phones out, but that footage is gone too. Maya closed her notebook. If there's a backup, I'll find it. People think money can erase truth, but it can't. Not forever. She stood. In the meantime, be careful. Don't answer calls you don't recognize. Don't let anyone in unless you know them. Diana walked her to the door. Why are you helping us? Maya gave a faint smile. Because I've seen too many women silenced by men who think they own the world. I'd like to watch one of them fall. After she left, Anna whispered, Do you think she can really help? Maybe, Diana said. But we have to be ready if she can't. She went to close the curtains. Outside, across the street, A black car was parked with its engine running. A man in a suit sat behind the wheel, pretending to read a newspaper. Diana's pulse quickened. She turned the lock on the door. That night, she and Marcus talked in low voices, while Anna pretended to sleep. "If Maya's right and there's a copy, we need to get it," Marcus said, "before Gray's people do." "You think we can?" "We have to try." In her bed, Anna listened, eyes wide open. She thought about Evelyn's face, about the slap, the sound, the silence that followed. She thought about how the whole room had watched and done nothing until she shouted. The grown-ups were scared, but she wasn't. Not really. Maybe that's why it had worked. Maybe she could be brave again. She didn't know much about justice, but she knew what was wrong, and she knew the truth shouldn't be afraid. Outside, the rain started again. Soft at first, then steady. The streetlight flickered across the window like a heartbeat. Somewhere in the city, Thomas Gray was sleeping in a mansion with guarded gates, confident that money could buy silence. But in a small apartment across town, a mother, her daughter, and a few unlikely allies were about to prove that even silence can be broken if one small voice refuses to fade. The next morning began with sunlight, but it carried no warmth. Diana woke to the sound of Anna humming softly in the kitchen. The girl was standing on a chair, pouring milk into her cereal with the careful precision of someone who didn't want to be scolded. Her hair was still tangled from sleep, but her eyes were bright and alert. "Good morning, Mama," she said, as if nothing in the world had changed. Diana tried to smile. "Good morning, baby." Her voice sounded hoarse, scraped raw by worry. She brewed coffee, the smell filling their small kitchen. For a few minutes, the world felt almost normal until she saw the folded newspaper Marcus had slipped under their door. Thomas Gray's face stared back from the front page, smiling as if the night before had never happened. The headline read, "Gray denies allegations, calls rumors, misunderstandings." Beneath the photo was a quote from one of the hotel's board members. "Mr. Gray is a man of integrity and compassion. The rumors are baseless." Diana's hands clenched. "Integrity," she muttered. "That's a new word for cowardice." Anna looked up. "Why is he on the paper?" "Because rich people get to tell their side first," Diana said, folding it away. She didn't want her daughter to see the rest, the paragraph that called Diana an unstable employee, and Anna a confused child. A knock on the door startled them both. Diana peeked through the peephole. Marcus. He looked exhausted, wearing the same clothes as yesterday. "You might want to see this," he said, stepping inside. He set a USB drive on the table. "This is it," he said quietly. "The backup." Diana's eyes widened. "You found it?" "A guy from the security team, Luis, called me last night. He copied the footage before management wiped the servers. Said he couldn't live with himself if he didn't." "Does it show everything?" "It shows enough," Marcus said. "The slap, the shouting, you, Anna, everything." Anna's small voice broke in. "Can we show it to the police?" Marcus hesitated. "We will, but we have to be careful. Gray's people will try to discredit it." He glanced toward the window, where the same black car sat parked across the street. They might already be watching. Diana felt a chill crawl up her arms. "We should give it to Maya," she said. "She'll know what to do." Marcus nodded. "She's expecting my call." He pulled out his phone and dialed. Maya answered almost instantly. "Tell me you have it," she said. "We do," Marcus replied. "Can we meet?" "There's a diner on Magazine Street, 2 blocks from St. Mary's Church. Booth in the back. Noon. We'll be there." Diana packed Anna's things quickly, her hands trembling. She stuffed the flash drive into her jacket pocket. As they left the apartment, Anna grabbed her rabbit from the couch. "Do you think the lady from the paper can help us?" "She's not from the paper anymore," Marcus said. "She quit last year after her editor killed a story about a senator. Said truth doesn't need permission." The diner was half empty when they arrived. Maya sat in the back booth, her hair tucked into a beanie, a notebook open beside her coffee. She smiled when she saw them. "You look tired," she said to Diana. "You have no idea," Diana replied. Marcus slid the flash drive across the table. Maya plugged it into her laptop. They watched in silence as the footage played. The glittering ballroom. The sound of laughter. The moment Evelyn dropped her glass. The slap, the hush. And then Anna's small voice, clear as a bell. "Stop hurting her. She's going to have a baby." Maya closed the laptop slowly. "This," she said, "is going to change everything." "You can post it?" Marcus asked. "I can," Maya said. "But once I do, there's no going back. Gray will come after you. He'll use his lawyers, his money, everything he's got." Diana looked at her daughter, who was quietly swinging her legs under the booth. "We've already lost our jobs. What else can he take?" Maya studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Okay. But I want to do it right. I'll prepare a full report timeline, statements, the video. I'll publish it on my own site first. Once it's live, the bigger outlets will have to cover it. They can't ignore it if it's already viral." "How long will it take?" Marcus asked. "A day, maybe less." Maya sipped her coffee. "But we'll need Evelyn. Her testimony will make it undeniable." Diana frowned. "She's disappeared. They said she went to a clinic." Maya tapped her pen against the table. "Then that's where we start looking." They left the diner at 1 in the afternoon. The sun had broken through the clouds, but the air still felt heavy. As they walked toward the car, Marcus noticed a man standing across the street pretending to check his phone. When the man looked up, his expression was blank, too blank. "Get in the car," Marcus said quietly. "Now." They drove in silence for several blocks before Diana spoke. "They're following us, aren't they?" "Probably," Marcus said. "But they won't try anything in public." "What about when we're not in public?" He didn't answer. Back at the apartment, Diana double-checked every lock. Anna sat on the couch watching cartoons, though she wasn't really watching. "Mama," she said, "what if they find us?" "They won't," Diana said, trying to sound firm. "We're careful." Anna looked unconvinced. "Bad people always find a way." Marcus turned on the news. The anchors were still talking about the incident at the gala. Thomas Gray had just announced a new foundation for domestic wellness in his wife's name. "He's using her," Diana said bitterly. "He's turning the story into charity." "That's what people like him do," Marcus said. "They don't admit guilt, they buy new headlines." The phone rang. It was Maya. "I found something," she said, her voice tight. "Evelyn's been moved from the clinic to St. Jude's Hospital under a different name. I've confirmed with a nurse who owes me a favor. She's alive, but they're keeping her isolated." Diana gripped the phone. "Can we see her?" "Maybe," Maya said. "But if Gray's team knows we're trying, they'll shut it down fast. We need to move carefully." "Tonight. Midnight. Meet me behind the hospital parking lot. Bring only what you need." Diana hung up and turned to Marcus. "We're going to see her." "Are you sure that's smart?" he asked. "No," she said. "But it's right." As the day faded into dusk, the city buzzed outside their window, unaware of the storm brewing quietly in a small apartment. Anna watched the sun sink behind the buildings, her reflection small and serious in the glass. "Mama," she said softly, "do you think the lady, the one he hurt, will remember me?" Diana brushed a hand through her daughter's hair. "I think she'll remember the voice that saved her." That night, long after Anna had fallen asleep, Diana packed a small bag with water, a flashlight, and the flash drive, wrapping it carefully in a cloth. Marcus waited by the door. "Ready?" he asked. "No," she said. "But let's go anyway." The street outside was quiet, except for the hum of distant jazz spilling from a bar down the block. The air was heavy, with the smell of rain and magnolia. As they walked toward the car, Diana looked back once more at her apartment building, its dim windows glowing softly like old memories. She whispered to herself, "He thought no one would stand up to him." And somewhere in the darkness, A voice answered quietly in her heart, her daughter's voice. If you don't, I'll call the police. The wind off the river carried the scent of salt and diesel as Diana and Marcus parked across from St. Jude's Hospital. The neon sign buzzed faintly, casting a red glow over the rain-slick pavement. Midnight in New Orleans was never silent. Even now, a trumpet cried somewhere far away. Diana pulled her jacket tight. We shouldn't have brought the car, she whispered. Too easy to track. Marcus nodded. If they're watching, they already know we're here. Let's move. They crossed the street, shoes splashing through puddles. A single light glowed in the East Wing corridor, the one Maya had mentioned. She was already waiting by the back entrance. Hood pulled over her head. Laptop bag slung across her shoulder. You made it, she said softly. Good. We don't have long. Is she really here? Diana asked. She is, Maya said. Name's listed as Evelyn Grant, room 318. The nurse on duty knows me. She'll give us 10 minutes. Marcus frowned. 10 minutes to do what exactly? To let her decide if she's ready to talk, Maya answered. If she gives consent, I'll record her statement. But this has to be her choice. Inside, the hospital smelled like bleach and sleeplessness. The hallways gleamed under fluorescent light, empty except for a janitor mopping near the elevator. The nurse, a short woman with gray curls and kind eyes, met them halfway down the hall. You didn't see me, she whispered, then nodded toward the last door on the right. Diana's heart pounded as she pushed it open. Evelyn lay propped against the pillows, skin pale, dark circles beneath her eyes. But when she saw them, something lit behind the exhaustion. You came, she said, voice thin but steady. Diana stepped closer. We had to. Are you safe here? Evelyn gave a bitter laugh. Safe enough until he finds another way to control me. Her hand rested protectively on her stomach. They said you spoke up. You and your little girl. She did, Diana said softly. She couldn't stay quiet. Evelyn's eyes watered. A child had to do what grown men wouldn't. That's what this world looks like. Maya opened her laptop. Evelyn, I can record your story. No edits, no spin. Once it's out, they can't erase it again. Evelyn hesitated. He has lawyers, money, people who make things disappear. He'll destroy you all. Marcus leaned forward. He already tried, but the truth's stronger than his PR team. Silence stretched. Rain ticked against the window like a clock counting down. Finally, Evelyn reached for the flash drive Diana carried. You still have it? Diana nodded and handed it over. There's more, Evelyn said, lowering her voice. Security footage from the hallway after you left the ballroom. He hit me again there twice. I copied the files before they wiped the system. It's on my tablet, in that drawer. Maya retrieved it, connecting it to her laptop. The screen came alive with grainy video. Thomas Gray stormed into a dark hallway, shouting. Evelyn flinched as he struck her, the sound sharp even through the speakers. Then he hissed something none of them would forget. You'll ruin everything. I'll ruin you first. Diana turned away, pressing a hand to her mouth. Marcus's jaw tightened. That's enough proof for 10 lifetimes. Evelyn sank back against the pillows. Then make sure the world sees it. Footsteps echoed outside. The nurse poked her head in. Someone's asking about this room, she whispered urgently. 2 men in suits. Maya snapped her laptop shut. Time to go. Evelyn gripped Diana's wrist. Take it. Don't let them silence me again. Diana squeezed her hand. We won't. They slipped into the hallway just as the elevator doors opened. 2 men stepped out, their movements too smooth to be anything but practiced. Marcus nodded toward the stairwell. This way. They ran down 3 flights, the stairwell echoing with the rhythm of their footsteps. When they burst through the side door into the parking lot, rain poured in silver sheets. Maya shielded the laptop under her coat. Marcus scanned the street. Cars around the corner. A black sedan idled near the curb, the same one from outside Diana's apartment. They found us, she breathed. Get in, Marcus ordered. The sedan's headlights flared. For a second, time stretched. Then Marcus spun the wheel hard as a shadowed figure stepped from the other car. Tires screeched on wet asphalt. Maya ducked low in the back seat, clutching the laptop like a lifeline. "Marcus, they're following," Diana shouted. "I see them." They sped through the empty streets, the city's lights smearing across the windshield. At the corner of Magazine and Euterpe, Marcus made a sharp turn into an alleyway lined with dumpsters. The sedan roared past without slowing. They waited, breathing hard, until the sound faded. Maya looked up. "We can't go back home. They'll be watching both places." "Huh. So where do we go?" Diana asked. "My office," Maya said. "It's small, downtown, nobody knows the address. We can upload from there." 15 minutes later, they pulled into a narrow lot behind a 2-story brick building. Inside, the office was cramped but warm walls lined with books, old photos of protests and headlines pinned above a desk. A coffee maker burbled in the corner. Maya plugged in the laptop and began transferring files. Anna stirred in her sleep when Diana lifted her from the car and laid her on the couch. The girl mumbled, "Mama, are we safe?" "For now, baby," Diana whispered. "For now." Marcus stood by the window, watching the rain. "If this goes public, he'll lose everything," he said. Maya didn't look up. "Then let's make sure it does." The upload bar crept slowly across the screen. 30%, 40. Outside, a siren wailed somewhere distant. Diana sat beside Anna, brushing the child's hair from her forehead. "You did this," she whispered. "You started all of this with your voice." Anna's eyes fluttered open. "Did we help her? The lady with the baby?" "We're trying, sweetheart. We're almost there." Suddenly, the lights flickered. The laptop screen went dark. "No," Maya breathed. "Power's out." Marcus checked the window. "Streetlights are still on. It's not the grid. It's us." A loud bang rattled the door downstairs. Another, then a man's voice. "Miss Torres, open up. We just want to talk." Maya's heart slammed in her chest. "They found us faster than I thought." Marcus moved to the stairs. "Keep uploading. I'll buy you time." "No," Diana said, standing. "We'll do this together." Anna sat up, clutching her rabbit. "Mama?" Diana knelt beside her. "No matter what happens, don't be afraid. Remember what you told him that night?" Anna nodded weakly. "If you don't stop, I'll call the police." That's right," Diana whispered. "You keep that courage." Downstairs, the door splintered. Marcus braced himself as 2 men in dark coats pushed through. "Stay back," he shouted. One of them smirked. "You think this will change anything?" "Gray's untouchable." "Not tonight," Marcus said, lunging forward. The sound of struggle filled the hallway grunts. A crash, glass breaking. Upstairs, Maya frantically reconnected the backup battery. The screen flickered back to life. 90%. Diana slammed the door to the office and pushed a filing cabinet against it. Anna hid behind the desk, wide-eyed. The thuds downstairs grew louder. 99%. Then, with a single chime, the upload completed. Maya hit send. A confirmation popped up. "File successfully published." She exhaled, trembling. "It's out. It's live." Moments later, Marcus stumbled into the room, bruised but breathing. "Go," he said. "We have to go now." They slipped out the fire escape into the night as sirens wailed closer. Maya looked back once at the office window glowing in the rain. "He'll know by morning," she said. "Good," Diana answered. "Let him wake up to the truth." By dawn, the city was awake in ways it hadn't been for years. The story had spread like wildfire. Every local station, every online feed, every talk show was repeating the same headline. Billionaire Thomas Gray caught on video assaulting pregnant wife. The footage was everywhere, shared, mirrored, impossible to erase. Underneath, hashtags surged. Number, Justice for Evelyn. Number, Anna spoke. Number, no more silence. Inside Maya's small apartment, the air smelled of burnt coffee and adrenaline. None of them had slept. Marcus paced near the window, his hands shaking from exhaustion and bruises. Diana sat at the edge of the couch, watching the morning news as the footage replayed again and again, the slap, the voice, the silence, and the child's cry. Anna leaned against her, eyes wide but unafraid. "That's me," she whispered softly. Diana kissed the top of her daughter's head. "Yes, baby, that's you. You made them listen." Maya sat at her desk, typing rapidly, answering messages from journalists across the country. "It's gone global," she said. "People are calling from CNN, MSNBC, even the BBC. They want statements, interviews." She stopped as her phone buzzed. Her expression darkened. "And death threats, of course." Marcus frowned. "From Gray's people? Maybe. Or just trolls. Either way, it means they're scared." On the television, a news anchor's voice trembled with urgency. Graytech's stock dropped 17% overnight following the release of disturbing footage, allegedly showing CEO Thomas Gray striking his wife during a charity event. The company's board of directors has called an emergency meeting. Legal experts predict a criminal investigation could begin within hours. Marcus let out a low whistle. That's the sound of power cracking. But the victory felt fragile. The phone rang again, this time Diana's. The number was unknown. She hesitated, then answered. A familiar voice, low and trembling, came through. "Diana? Evelyn?" "Yes," she whispered. "I saw it. I saw the video." "You did it." Diana smiled through tears. "You did it too, honey. You're the one who gave us the proof." "They moved me again," Evelyn said quickly. "They said it was for my safety, but I think they're trying to make me disappear before the hearing. I need help." "Where are you?" "I don't know exactly. It's a private facility outside Baton Rouge. They took my phone, but a nurse let me call from her station." "Stay calm," Diana said. "We'll find you. I promise." Before Evelyn could respond, the line went dead. Marcus cursed under his breath. He's trying to hide her. If the police don't have her, they can't build the case. "Oh, they'll find her," Maya said, but her voice lacked conviction. She turned back to her laptop. "I'll send her name to my contacts at the DA's office. Once this hits full circulation, they'll have to act." Anna tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Why doesn't she just run away?" "Because," Diana said softly, "sometimes running isn't freedom. Sometimes it's another kind of prison." At that moment, the door shook with heavy pounding. Everyone froze. Marcus grabbed a kitchen knife. Maya whispered, "Don't open it." A man's voice came through. "New Orleans Police Department. Open up." Marcus frowned. "They found us already?" Diana opened the door a crack. Two uniformed officers stood there. One tall and calm, the other younger and tense. "Mrs. Williams?" the older one asked. "We need to take a statement regarding the footage you provided." Maya stepped forward cautiously. "They already have the video." Yes, ma'am, but we need verification of the source," the officer said. "We're coordinating with the district attorney." Diana hesitated, studying their faces. They looked real badges, radios, tired eyes. She stepped aside. "Come in." The officers took their statements carefully, writing everything down. The older one nodded gravely. "What you and your daughter did took courage, ma'am. The footage is already with federal investigators. Mr. Gray's being served with a warrant this morning." "Buh." Diana let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "It's really happening?" "Yes, ma'am. But you'll need protection. There'll be a lot of noise. And not everyone will want to see you safe." He handed her a card. "We'll keep an eye on you. Don't go anywhere alone." When they left, silence settled again, heavy, uncertain, but alive. Anna whispered, "Does that mean it's over?" "Not yet," Maya said. "It's just beginning." By noon, the world was on fire. Protesters gathered outside Graytech headquarters, holding signs that read, "Believe her," and "Power isn't justice." Television trucks clogged the streets. Employees leaked emails to journalists, exposing years of cover-ups, hush money, NDAs, threats. The image of Thomas Gray being escorted from his penthouse in handcuffs looped endlessly on every channel. Inside the apartment, Marcus whooped. "Look at him. The king's falling." Anna clapped, laughing for the first time in days. "We won, Mama." Diana hugged her tight. We did something right, baby. That's what matters. But Maya's expression stayed grave as she scrolled through the flood of new messages. We didn't win yet, she said. His lawyers are spinning it. They're calling it a deepfake, saying the video's been digitally altered. They're accusing us of fabricating evidence. Marcus slammed his fist on the table. That's insane. It doesn't matter, Maya said. If they can make people doubt, they can delay the trial. All they need is time. The phone buzzed again, this time a text from an unknown number. You think this ends with a video? Watch your back. Diana stared at the words until they blurred. They're not going to stop, are they? No, Maya said. But neither will we. That night, after Anna had fallen asleep, Diana stood by the window, watching the reflection of police lights flashing across the city. The air outside pulsed with the noise of people demanding truth horns, chants, camera shutters clicking like rain. Marcus joined her quietly. You ever think it would go this far? I just wanted him to stop hitting her, Diana said. I didn't think it would change the whole city. He smiled faintly. That's how change starts. One voice, then another. Down the hall, Maya worked at her computer, piecing together the next article. The woman who spoke, and the girl who made the world listen. Her fingers trembled as she typed, not from fear, but from awe. Outside, the world was finally paying attention, but in a high-rise somewhere across town, Thomas Gray sat in a holding room, his lawyer beside him, his face pale with fury. Find her, he muttered. Find the waitress and her daughter. Make them regret this. The lawyer didn't respond. The sound of protesters echoed from the street below. A steady, unbroken chant. Back in Maya's apartment, Anna stirred in her sleep. Mama, she mumbled softly. The lights are still on. Diana looked down at her daughter, brushing a curl from her cheek. Yes, sweetheart, she whispered. They're on because you turned them on. Outside, the dawn returned again, brighter this time, louder, a city learning how to listen. By the end of that week, New Orleans was a city split in two, half cheering, half in denial. Every coffee shop, every bar, every church service seemed to circle back to the same name, Thomas Gray. His arrest had turned from a scandal into a national reckoning. On the morning news, pundits debated his guilt as if it were a sport, while headlines screamed across every screen, the video that shook America. In Maya's apartment, the blinds stayed closed. The police had moved Diana and Anna there under quiet protection, though protection meant two plainclothes officers parked outside, and a promise no one really trusted. Maya's living room had turned into a newsroom, papers, laptops, half-empty coffee cups, and the constant hum of phones vibrating. Marcus sat at the table scrolling through his phone. They're saying the board voted to suspend Gray as CEO, he said. Stocks down another 12%. He's finished. Maya looked up from her computer. He's wounded. Not finished. Men like him don't crumble, they fight dirty until the last stone falls. Diana poured coffee, her hands unsteady. You think he'll try to get out? He'll post bail, of course, Maya said. His lawyers are already claiming he's the victim of a smear campaign. He'll go on TV soon, cry a little, talk about stress and misunderstandings. But the difference this time? She turned her screen toward them. People are watching too closely. Anna sat on the couch coloring on a page she had torn from an old magazine. She had drawn the chandelier again, the one from the ballroom, this time cracked down the middle but shining brighter than before. Sweetheart, Diana said, why do you always draw that? Because it was beautiful, Anna replied. Even when it broke, it still had light in it. The room went quiet. Marcus smiled softly. That's a good way to think about truth. The knock came just after noon. The officers outside checked the hallway before nodding for Diana to open the door. A woman stepped in, tall, brown-skinned, wearing a navy blazer and the kind of expression that made people sit up straighter. Mrs. Williams, I'm Assistant District Attorney Valerie Pierce. May I come in? Diana motioned her inside. Pierce nodded politely to everyone. First, let me say thank you. Without your courage, this case would still be buried under money and lies. The federal prosecutors have taken over. We'll be pursuing felony assault, witness intimidation, and obstruction of justice. Maya leaned forward, And Evelyn? She's in protective custody now, Pierce said. Her statement corroborates the footage. She's safe. Diana's shoulders slumped in relief. Thank God, Pierce continued. However, Gray's attorneys are filing motions to exclude your video as unverified digital content. They're calling it tampered. Marcus groaned. Of course they are. We expected that, Maya said. I have the metadata, timestamps, and multiple backups. They can't erase it this time. Pierce nodded. Good. Because we'll need you all to testify. The preliminary hearing's in 2 weeks. Diana's mouth went dry. Testify? In court? Yes. Your account and your daughters are critical to establishing the pattern of abuse. She's just a child, Diana protested. She shouldn't have to sit in a courtroom with that man staring at her. Pierce softened. We'll do everything we can to protect her. There are options, closed sessions, recorded testimony. But the power of her voice, that's what started this. The jury needs to hear it. Anna looked up from her drawing. I can do it, she said quietly. Everyone turned toward her. Her small hand clutched the crayon. Eyes steady. He said nobody would believe me. I want him to see that he was wrong. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Diana nodded slowly. Okay. Baby. We'll do this together. That night, the weight of what was coming settled over them. Marcus cooked a pot of gumbo, filling the apartment with the smell of onions and garlic. Maya worked late drafting affidavits, her fingers trembling with fatigue. The television droned in the background, replaying clips of Gray being led into court. His face unreadable. When the reporter mentioned that Gray had posted bail, Diana nearly dropped her spoon. He's out already? Pierce had warned them this might happen. Gray had paid $10 million pocket change for a man like him and walked free pending trial. Outside his mansion, supporters had gathered, some holding signs that read "Justice for Gray." Marcus cursed under his breath. Unbelievable. They're treating him like he's the victim. Maya sighed. That's what power does. It teaches people to sympathize with their abuser, because he looks familiar in a nice suit. Anna frowned. Why are they helping him? Diana knelt beside her. Because sometimes people don't want to believe that someone they admire could be cruel. It's easier to call the truth a lie. Anna thought for a moment, then said, Then we'll just tell the truth louder. Later that evening, as thunder rolled over the city, Diana found herself standing by the window again, staring out at the rain-soaked streets. She could see reflections of neon lights from Bourbon Street shimmering in puddles, alive and trembling. I never thought I'd be in something like this, she murmured. Marcus joined her. You mean being part of a revolution? She gave a faint laugh. Revolution? I just wanted to stop a man from hurting his wife. Sometimes, he said, that's how revolutions start. At that moment, Maya's phone buzzed again. She glanced down, her expression changing. It's Evelyn. Diana turned. She's safe, right? She is, but she's scared. She said someone from Gray's legal team tried to contact her on behalf of her husband, asking her to withdraw her statement. They offered her a house, a car, anything she wanted. Did she take it? No, she said. Tell Diana and Anna that I remember the chandelier too. Then she hung up. Diana swallowed hard. She's stronger than she thinks. The thunder outside deepened into a low, steady rumble. The whole apartment seemed to shake with it. Anna peeked out from her blanket on the couch. Is it a bad storm, Mama? Diana smiled faintly. No, baby. It's just the sky telling the truth. Maya turned off the lights, leaving the glow of her laptop as the only illumination. On the screen, her latest article draft was open. When the rich fall silent, the poor must speak for them. She typed one last sentence before closing it for the night. Courage isn't born from comfort, it's born from necessity. Outside, lightning flashed, and the city exhaled, readying itself for the next fight. The rain had stopped by morning, but the tension in the city hadn't. New Orleans pulsed with something electric: protesters, journalists, and police moving like tides through the French Quarter. Overnight, the courthouse steps had become an altar for signs and flowers, a symbol of solidarity for women who had once stayed silent. In the middle of it all, Anna's face had appeared on a poster. Someone had frozen a still from the video where she shouted, "Stop hurting her." The caption read, "The little voice that roared." When Diana saw it on Maya's laptop, she went still. "They shouldn't use her picture," she whispered. "She's just a child." Maya turned the screen toward her. "It's already out there. But look, people are standing up because of her. Churches are organizing rallies. Shelters are reporting record donations. She's giving people hope." Diana shook her head. "Hope is dangerous when the man we're fighting still has power." Marcus, sitting by the window with his bandaged arm, nodded. "He's right now in that mansion, planning his next move. Men like Thomas Gray don't fade, they come back swinging." Maya leaned forward. "Then we swing harder." A knock came at the door. It was Officer Callahan, the older detective who had visited them before. He looked grim. "Mrs. Williams, you'll need to pack a few things. There's been an incident at the courthouse." Diana froze. "What kind of incident?" Callahan hesitated. "A protest turned ugly. Some of Gray's supporters showed up. Things got heated. They were chanting about lies and conspiracies. Someone painted threats on the courthouse wall. And then," he sighed, "someone leaked your address." The room went silent. Maya cursed softly. "So they know where you live." "Not just them," Callahan said. "The press too. There are cameras outside your building. I've got a car downstairs to move you to a safe location." Anna looked up from her coloring book. "Are we in trouble, Mama?" Diana knelt beside her, trying to keep her voice calm. "No, baby. We're just going somewhere safer." As they packed, Marcus muttered under his breath, "He's losing control. That's why he's trying to scare us." Callahan nodded. "Maybe, but fear can be a weapon too." "Ma." They left through the back stairwell, moving quickly, heads down. Outside, the air smelled like wet asphalt and exhaust. Cameras flashed near the front entrance of the building, but Callahan's unmarked sedan was parked in the alley. As they got in, Diana saw her daughter's face plastered on a nearby newspaper vending box, the witness child, a symbol of courage. She turned away, her stomach twisting. The safe house was a small, one-story bungalow on the edge of Algiers Point, surrounded by oak trees heavy with moss. Inside, the walls were bare except for a clock that ticked too loudly. "You'll be safe here," Callahan said. "No one knows this address except the department." "Not even Gray's lawyers?" Maya asked. "Not even them," Callahan replied. "At least not yet. He left them with a security phone, a few supplies, and a quiet warning. If anything feels wrong, don't wait. Call me." Vu. After he left, the silence felt thick. Anna sat at the table with her rabbit, watching her mother pace. "Mama," she said softly, "why do they hate us if we told the truth?" Diana stopped. "Because the truth hurts people who live on lies." "But we're supposed to tell the truth," Anna said. "We are," Diana replied. "But sometimes the truth is like fire. It burns first, then it lights the way." Later that evening, Maya's laptop chimed. She opened it, expecting another news update, but her face went pale. "It's a message," she said slowly. Marcus leaned over her shoulder. "From who?" "An encrypted account. It says, 'Stop now. The next time, the girl gets hurt.'" Diana's knees almost gave out. "They're threatening Anna?" Maya closed the laptop, her jaw tight. "This is how they work. Intimidation, fear, silence. But they don't get to scare us back into the dark." Marcus exhaled, anger flickering in his eyes. "Then we go public again. We show them we're not afraid." Maya nodded. "I'll contact the networks for a live interview. If we keep the spotlight on, they can't touch you without the whole world seeing." Diana hesitated. "You mean, we go on TV?" "Yes," Maya said. "You, me, and Anna, together." The next morning came too fast. The safe house turned into a makeshift studio. A small news crew, arranged by Maya's contacts, arrived discreetly at dawn. Cameras, lights, microphones. Anna sat between her mother and Maya, her feet swinging above the floor. She wore her yellow dress, the same one from that night at the ballroom. The interviewer's voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed awe. "Anna," she began softly, "why did you tell Mr. Gray to stop?" Anna looked at the camera, her voice clear. "Because he was hurting someone who couldn't fight back. And she had a baby. You don't hit people you love." There was silence in the room. Even the cameraman blinked hard. Diana squeezed her daughter's hand, proud and trembling at once. The interviewer turned to her. "Mrs. Williams, were you afraid that night?" "Yes," Diana said, "but fear isn't always a sign to stop. Sometimes it's a sign that what you're doing matters." Maya leaned forward slightly. "People think bravery is loud," she said. But that night, bravery was a whisper that refused to stay quiet. The segment aired that same afternoon. Within hours, it had millions of views. Donations poured into domestic abuse shelters across the country. Public figures, actors, pastors, even senators spoke in defense of the Williams family. But for every message of support, there were a dozen of hate. "Fake," one post read. "Crisis actors, set up by political enemies." She coached the kid. Maya scrolled through the comments and closed her laptop. "He's lost control of the narrative," she said. "So now he's turning the mob against you." Marcus rubbed his temples. "Then we stay quiet and let the truth do its job." Diana looked at her daughter, who was coloring again, oblivious to the storm raging outside their safe walls. "She's stronger than any of us," Diana said softly. "That's what he'll never understand." That night, Diana tucked Anna into bed. "Mama," Anna whispered. "Are we safe now?" Diana brushed a curl from her forehead. "For tonight, yes. But we have to keep believing in what's right." Anna nodded sleepily. "Then I'll believe twice as hard." Outside, the cicadas sang in the thick summer air. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like a held breath. Somewhere downtown, Thomas Gray stared at a screen filled with headlines about a 6-year-old girl who had undone his empire. His reflection looked older than it had a week ago. He closed his laptop slowly, muttering to himself, "They'll see what truth costs." Back in Algiers Point, Diana woke in the middle of the night. A faint sound came from outside a car door shutting, softly. She went to the window and pulled back the curtain. Under the streetlight, a figure stood by the mailbox, watching the house. The figure under the streetlight didn't move. It just stood there, half shrouded in shadow, as if carved from the dark. Diana's breath caught in her throat. She squinted through the thin curtain. The man wore a hat pulled low, a coat too heavy for Louisiana heat. One hand rested in his pocket, the other on something that glinted faintly beneath the light. Her first thought was Anna. She turned from the window, heart hammering, and moved quickly down the hall. Anna slept peacefully. Her rabbit clutched against her chest, unaware that the world outside was holding its breath. Diana slipped into the room and gently shook Marcus awake on the couch. "There's someone outside," she whispered. Marcus was on his feet in an instant. "You sure?" "Yes. He's by the mailbox." Maya stirred from the armchair, rubbing her eyes. "Could be one of Callahan's men," she said, though her tone carried no conviction. "Then why's he hiding?" Marcus asked, already reaching for the small bat they kept by the door. Diana's fingers trembled as she picked up the police phone Callahan had left them. She dialed the emergency line, whispering their location. "Someone's watching the house," she said. The dispatcher promised to send a unit. 10 minutes, maybe less. 10 minutes felt like forever. They killed the lights and peered through the blinds again. The man was gone. Marcus swore under his breath. "That's worse." Maya moved to the back door. "I'll check the yard." "Don't," Diana snapped. "You're not going out there." But Maya had already cracked the door open, flashlight in hand. The beam swept across the overgrown grass, the shed, the fence line. Nothing. Only the soft hum of crickets and the far-off rumble of the river. Then came the crunch, one slow step on the gravel. "Back inside," Marcus hissed, pulling her in and slamming the bolt shut. They heard another sound now, a faint tapping against the front door. Not knocking. Just tapping. Deliberate and steady. "Who's there?" Marcus shouted. Silence. The tapping stopped. Then a folded piece of paper slid under the door. No one moved for a long moment. The room was so still that Diana could hear Anna's slow breathing from down the hall. Marcus bent down cautiously and picked up the note. He unfolded it. 3 words were written in thick black ink. Truth has consequences. Maya exhaled shakily. He's taunting us. Marcus looked at the clock. Where the hell are the cops? A few minutes later, red and blue lights flashed through the curtains. Officer Callahan stepped out of the patrol car, hand on his holster, scanning the yard. You all right? He called as he approached the porch. Marcus opened the door. Someone was here. Left this. He handed him the note. Callahan read it, jaw tightening. You didn't see a face? No, Diana said. Just a man in a hat. Okay, Callahan said, looking around. We'll patrol the area, check the cameras on the next street over. But you need to stay alert. He's not just trying to scare you, he's testing how close he can get. When the police finally left, it was nearly 3 in the morning. The silence afterward felt heavier than before. Diana didn't sleep. She sat by Anna's bed, watching her chest rise and fall, promising silently that nothing would touch her child. At dawn, the first call came from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something made her press the button. Mrs. Williams, a man's voice said, smooth and rehearsed. My name is Raymond Cole. I represent Mr. Gray. Her pulse quickened. You have no right to call this number. I understand your anger, the man continued, but we can end this quietly. Mr. Gray is willing to make a generous offer. A trust fund for your daughter. Financial security for you. All we ask is that you and Miss Torres retract your statements publicly. Diana's voice turned to steel. You think you can buy our silence? It's not about silence, Cole said. It's about peace. These things destroy families. Think of your child's safety. Her throat tightened. You threatened my child last night. Cole's tone didn't change. I assure you, Mrs. Williams, no one from our side condones intimidation. But accidents happen when emotions run high. She hung up before he could finish. When she told the others, Marcus slammed his fist on the table. They're getting desperate. Maya typed furiously on her laptop. We'll record the call and trace the number. Every threat makes our case stronger. But Diana wasn't thinking of cases. She was thinking of Anna's small hand clutching her rabbit, the way she had said, You don't hurt people you love. By noon, the news had broken again. Evelyn Royce, Thomas's wife, had been moved to a federal safe house under witness protection. The DA's office confirmed she would testify in person. On TV, a commentator said, This case isn't just about one man's violence. It's about the silence that let him get away with it for years. Marcus smiled grimly. They finally get it. But Diana's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from an unknown contact. We know where the little girl goes to school. Her breath hitched. Marcus, he grabbed the phone, reading the text. That's it. We're not waiting for the trial to save us. Maya looked up. What are you saying? I'm saying we take control, he said. We bring this straight to the FBI. We go public again, bigger this time. No backroom deals, no silence. Maya hesitated. That means there's no going back. There already isn't, Diana said quietly. That night, they drove to the city under cover of darkness. Anna slept in the back seat, her small face illuminated by the glow of passing streetlights. The radio murmured updates about the case, about public outrage spreading to other states. When they reached Maya's contact at the federal building, an agent met them at the side entrance. You're safe here, he said. We've been expecting you. Inside, Diana handed over the phone with the threats, the note, and the recorded call. The agent listened silently, then nodded. This is organized intimidation, he said. We've seen Gray's people try this before. You did the right thing coming here. As they left the office hours later, the city outside seemed quieter. Rain began again, soft, cleansing. Anna held her mother's hand tightly. Mama, she whispered. Are we going to win? Diana looked down at her. Then at the faint sunrise breaking through the clouds. We already are, sweetheart, she said. because he's scared now. And as the first light hit the Mississippi River, the sound of church bells rang through the city, a small, defiant echo that felt like hope made real. The following morning, the city was already buzzing by the time Diana woke up. From the window of their temporary federal housing unit, she could see reporters crowding the streets below, their cameras trained on the courthouse. The trial of Thomas Gray v. the people of Louisiana was set to begin in less than an hour, and the air itself seemed to hum with anticipation. Marcus was pacing again, his shirt untucked, eyes sharp with sleeplessness. "You'd think the world never saw a courtroom before," he muttered, glancing at the television where news anchors dissected every angle of the case. Maya sat at the kitchen counter, laptop open, fielding calls from reporters. "They want live coverage," she said. "Every network in the country is streaming this. It's not just a trial anymore, it's a mirror." Diana poured coffee and set a cup in front of her. "A mirror?" Maya nodded. "Yeah, every person who ever looked away from abuse. Every company that protected a powerful man, they're going to see themselves today." Anna sat quietly at the table, swinging her legs. She had on her favorite yellow dress again, the one she called her bravery dress. She had drawn a picture that morning. A courthouse with rays of light spilling out from its roof. In front of it, she'd drawn a small stick figure holding hands with a taller one. She pointed at it and smiled shyly. "That's us, Mama." Diana kissed her forehead. "Yes, baby, that's us." When they arrived at the courthouse, cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters shouted questions. "Mrs. Williams, how are you feeling? Anna, are you ready to testify? Do you think justice will be served?" Callahan and 2 federal marshals escorted them through the side entrance. Inside, the marble halls felt cold and endless. Diana's pulse thudded in her ears. She kept one hand on Anna's shoulder and the other gripping the strap of her purse like it was an anchor. The courtroom itself was a storm of whispers when they entered. Thomas Gray sat at the defense table, wearing a tailored navy suit. His expression calm, but eyes venomous. When he saw them, a faint smirk tugged at his lips. Anna froze. "That's him," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Diana Keltbesidaher. Don't look at him, baby. Look at me." But Anna didn't look away. Her little jaw tightened, and for a brief moment, the room seemed to tilt in her favor, the billionaire looking small, the child looking unbreakable. The judge entered, and silence fell. The proceedings began with the prosecutor, Ada Valerie Pierce, outlining the case. Her voice was steady, every syllable deliberate. "This case is about violence and silence," she said. "It is about a man who believed his wealth made him untouchable, and a child who proved him wrong." "No," gasps rippled through the audience. Reporters scribbled furiously. When it was time for witnesses, Marcus went first. He spoke clearly, recounting the events at the gala, the slap, the crowd's fear, the moment he stepped between Thomas and Evelyn. "I saw it," he said firmly. "We all did. But only one voice dared to stop it. And it wasn't mine." He looked toward Anna. It was hers. Then came Diana. She described the night through tears, how she'd felt frozen until her daughter broke the silence. "I was afraid," she said softly. "Afraid of losing my job, my home, everything. But my little girl wasn't afraid of any of that. She just saw someone being hurt and knew it was wrong." The courtroom was silent when she finished. Even the judge's eyes softened for a moment. Finally, it was Anna's turn. Pierce walked her to the witness stand gently, crouching to meet her at eye level. "You can sit on the cushion, honey," she said. "Do you remember to tell the truth?" Anna nodded solemnly. "Always." When she took her seat, her feet dangled above the floor. The microphone was taller than she was. The judge smiled kindly. "Take your time, sweetheart," Pierce began softly. "Anna, can you tell us what you saw that night at the party?" Anna looked down at her hands, then back up at the crowded room. Her voice was small but clear. "I saw a man hit his wife. She was crying, and nobody did anything, so I told him to stop." "And what did he do when you said that?" "He looked at me like I was dirt, like I shouldn't talk." Pierce's voice trembled slightly. And why did you talk anyway? Because if I didn't, Anna said simply, he would have kept hitting her. And she had a baby in her belly. There was an audible sniff from the jury box. Even the bailiff cleared his throat. Then came the defense attorney. Raymond Cole rose smoothly, adjusting his tie. Miss Williams, he began, voice dripping with practiced politeness. You're a very brave little girl, but sometimes, when people are scared, they can see things that aren't really happening. Do you understand? Anna tilted her head. You mean lying? A ripple of laughter spread through the courtroom, quickly hushed. I mean mistaken, Cole said quickly. You might have seen something from far away and maybe it looked different. No, Anna interrupted. I was close. He hit her hard. Cole blinked. Are you sure? Yes, Anna said, folding her small hands. You don't forget when someone hurts someone else. Cole tried again, but his composure cracked under the purity of her certainty. Every word out of the girl's mouth landed like a hammer on his argument. When she stepped down, the courtroom erupted in quiet applause until the judge rapped her gavel. Later, during recess, Evelyn appeared. She walked into the courtroom supported by a federal officer, pale but upright. When Diana saw her, she rose instinctively. The two women met halfway down the aisle and embraced wordlessly. Evelyn's voice was barely a whisper. You kept your promise. You did too, Diana said. When Evelyn took the stand, her testimony was devastating. She spoke of years of control, threats, and isolation. He told me no one would ever believe me, she said. He told me I was nothing without him. She looked directly at Thomas. But I'm still here. Thomas sat motionless, but his eyes burned. By the end of the day, when the judge adjourned the session, the weight of what had happened seemed to fill every corner of the courthouse. Outside, the crowd was chanting again, not in anger this time, but in hope. Diana held Anna's hand as they stepped into the evening light. You were amazing, baby, she whispered. Anna looked up, her eyes bright. I just told the truth. Maya joined them, tears glistening. Sometimes, she said, the truth is enough to shake an empire. Behind them, church bells rang again, clear, strong, unbroken. The trial wasn't over yet. But for the first time, it felt like justice was finally breathing. The next day began with storm clouds over New Orleans. The courthouse steps were slick with rain as journalists huddled beneath umbrellas, their microphones raised like weapons of curiosity. Inside, the air was thick with tension and the faint smell of wet wool. Today would be the defense's turn to strike back. Diana felt the unease the moment she entered. The crowd's energy had changed overnight. The whispers were sharper, the stares longer. Something was different. She sat beside Maya and Marcus in the front row, clutching Anna's small hand so tightly the girl whispered, Mama, you're hurting me. Sorry, baby, Diana said softly, loosening her grip. I just don't like being in the same room with that man. At the defense table, Thomas Gray looked renewed, calm, composed, every inch the billionaire he had been before the fall. His suit was immaculate, his tie deep crimson. He even smiled faintly at the cameras, like a man certain the world still belonged to him. Raymond Cole rose from his seat and addressed the court. Your Honor, the defense intends to demonstrate that the prosecution's so-called evidence has been manipulated, and that my client has been the target of a coordinated defamation campaign. Valerie Pierce's eyes narrowed. Objection. There's no factual basis for that claim. Not yet, Cole said smoothly, but there will be. He clicked a remote, and the lights dimmed slightly as a video began to play on the courtroom screen. It was the same footage Maya had released to the public, the slap, the voice, the chaos, but now there was something off about it. The sound warped slightly, and the angle froze awkwardly mid-frame. Cole paused it dramatically. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, he said, pacing in front of the screen. Notice the inconsistency in lighting here. Digital experts have confirmed that sections of this video were spliced, creating the illusion of continuity where there is none. My client never struck his wife. The tape was edited. Gasps rippled through the room. Maya stood abruptly. That's a lie. The judge banged her gavel. Miss Torres, you will sit down or be removed. Maya lowered herself slowly. her face pale with fury. Cole turned to the jury again. You've seen what the media can do when emotion overrides evidence. A frightened woman, a confused child, a waitress desperate for attention, these are the ingredients of a story designed to sell outrage. Objection, Pierce snapped. That is inflammatory. Sustained, the judge said, glaring, but the seed was already planted. The jurors shifted in their seats. Doubt, small but visible, began to creep into the air. Diana's throat tightened. She looked at Maya. Can he really say that? He can say anything, Maya muttered. But he can't make it true. Pierce rose for cross-examination. Mr. Cole, your expert isn't here today, is he? He will testify tomorrow, Cole said smoothly. Good, Pierce replied, because I'll have mine here too, and she'll prove that video came straight from the hotel's security system before it was deleted by your client's staff. Cole's jaw twitched, but he said nothing. When the judge called for recess, Diana and her group retreated to the hallway. Reporters crowded instantly. Mrs. Williams, how do you respond to claims the footage was fake? Miss Torres, did you alter the video before releasing it? Maya forced her way through the crowd. No comment, she said. But once they were outside, her mask cracked. They're playing dirty. Deepfake claims, digital tampering. Gray's people are flooding social media with conspiracy garbage. They're saying Anna's not even real. Diana's eyes filled. My child is not a story. She's a little girl. Marcus clenched his fists. They can twist anything. The truth scares them too much to leave it alone. Back inside the courtroom, Thomas Gray sat with his lawyers, whispering to them as cameras flashed. His smirk returned, the same one he'd worn that night at the gala. It was a smile that said he still believed he'd win. That evening, the group gathered in the small apartment the DA's office had provided. The television blared nonstop coverage. Commentators debated endlessly, was the video authentic? Were the witnesses credible? One host even questioned whether a 6-year-old could truly understand what she saw. Diana turned off the TV. I can't listen to them anymore. Anna sat on the couch beside her, coloring silently. Mama, she said after a while, does that man still think he didn't do anything wrong? Yes, Diana said bitterly. He thinks money makes right. Anna looked up, her brown eyes steady. Then maybe he never learned what right means. The room fell quiet. A few minutes later, Maya's phone buzzed with a message. She frowned. It's from an unknown number. She opened it and froze. It was a photo, grainy, black and white. It showed the outside of the courthouse. In the corner, circled in red, was Anna's yellow dress. The caption read, Pretty little hero, be careful. Marcus grabbed the phone. That's a threat, Maya nodded. They're watching her. Diana's voice trembled. How do we keep her safe? We don't hide, Maya said after a pause. We fight harder. She looked at Marcus. Can you get word to the press? Off the record. Let them know Gray's people are stalking witnesses. If we shine light on it, they'll back off. Marcus nodded. Yeah, I know who to call. That night, as thunder rolled again over the city, Diana lay awake beside Anna. The little girl slept peacefully, her rabbit tucked under her chin. In the glow of the bedside lamp, Diana whispered, You shouldn't have to be brave. Not like this. She thought about the courtroom, about Thomas Gray's smirk, and about the cracks in the jurors' confidence. The truth was fragile, but still alive. She got up, walked to the window, and looked out at the Mississippi River glimmering under the storm clouds. Somewhere across town, Gray's mansion stood dark and guarded. But Diana didn't fear it anymore. The man inside was no longer untouchable. He was cornered, and cornered men made mistakes. As the rain began again, Diana whispered to the night, Tomorrow, he'll slip. Tomorrow, we'll finish this. And in the distance, faint but unmistakable, the bells of St. Louis Cathedral began to toll soft, defiant, a promise that the storm would break soon. The next morning dawned gray and heavy. The kind of Louisiana morning that smelled like wet iron and secrets. Diana could barely taste her coffee. She sat in the courthouse waiting area, the hum of voices and the clicking of heels echoing through marble halls. Today was the day the defense would present their expert witness, the man who claimed the video of Thomas Gray striking his wife was a forgery. Marcus leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "He's going to pull every trick in the book," he said. "Fake credentials, junk science, anything to make that video look like a lie." Maya was already typing on her laptop. "I've got 3 digital analysts on standby ready to refute him. I'll send their reports to the DA's office before lunch." Anna sat between Diana's knees, humming softly to herself, tracing circles on the floor with her shoe. "Mama," she said, looking up. "Are we winning?" Diana smoothed the child's hair. "Not yet, baby. But we're getting closer." They were escorted into the courtroom a few minutes later. The air felt tighter than usual, charged with anticipation. Reporters filled the back rows, whispering and checking their phones. When Thomas Gray entered, cameras clicked like gunfire. He looked confident, almost smug, as he took his seat. Raymond Cole stood and addressed the court. "Your Honor, the defense calls Dr. Jonathan Ames to the stand." A man in his 50s with a neat gray beard walked forward, carrying himself with the false modesty of someone used to applause. He swore his oath and sat down, smiling faintly at the jury. Cole began his questioning. "Dr. Ames, you are a digital forensics expert with over 20 years of experience, correct?" "Yes, that's right. And you've reviewed the video evidence in question?" "I have. In your expert opinion, is the footage authentic?" Ames paused for dramatic effect. "No," he said clearly. "It is not." A murmur ran through the courtroom. Cole nodded gravely. "And how can you tell?" "There are inconsistencies in pixel resolution and timestamp irregularities. These are hallmarks of editing." Cole turned toward the jury. "So, this so-called proof of violence is nothing more than a fabrication?" "In my professional opinion, yes." Diana felt her stomach twist. She wanted to shout that he was lying, that she'd seen it with her own eyes. But the courtroom was a place of rules and silence. Then it was Valerie Pierce's turn. She rose from her chair like a storm gathering strength. "Dr. Ames," she said, voice cool and cutting. "You said you've been a digital expert for over 20 years. Is that correct?" "Yes. And your degree, where did you earn it?" Ames blinked. "University of East Colorado." Pierce raised an eyebrow. "Interesting. Because that university closed in 1998, 5 years before you claim to have graduated. Did you perhaps mean an online institution?" The room stirred. Ames stammered. "It was a certificate program." Pierce's smile was razor thin. "I see. And who paid you for your analysis?" "Graytech's legal division," Ames admitted. "So," Pierce said, stepping closer, "you were compensated by the defendant's company to discredit evidence against its CEO." Ames swallowed. "That's a mischaracterization." Pierce turned toward the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is what the defense calls truth, a paid opinion from a man with a fake degree and a corporate sponsor." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Ames shifted in his seat. "The data speaks for itself." "No," Pierce interrupted sharply. "The data can be manipulated, just like people. But facts, Dr. Ames, facts remain." She turned toward the judge. "The prosecution calls Dr. Lenora Patel, chief forensic analyst for the FBI's Digital Crimes Unit." A woman in a navy suit entered from the side door, her badge gleaming. "Your Honor," she said, "we've verified the original video files retrieved from the hotel's archived server. The metadata confirms they were recorded continuously, with no evidence of tampering. In short, the footage is authentic." A gasp swept through the room. Thomas Gray's composure cracked for the first time. He whispered furiously to his lawyer, jaw clenched. Pierce turned back to the jury. "You've heard 2 experts today, one bought, one bound by oath. The choice between them is a choice between deceit and justice." The judge struck her gavel to quiet the noise, but the energy in the room had shifted completely. For the first time, Thomas Gray looked smaller. During recess, Reporters swarmed again. Headlines hit social media before they even left the building. Defense expert discredited in Gray trial. FBI confirms video authentic. In the hallway, Maya's phone buzzed non-stop. "We did it," she said, grinning through tears. "They can't bury the truth anymore." "Vuh," Marcus laughed, the sound rough and relieved. About time, but Diana didn't smile. She was staring down the hallway toward the exit, where Thomas Gray stood surrounded by bodyguards. For a moment, their eyes met. His smile returned thin, dangerous. He mouthed 2 words across the distance, "Not over." Diana's skin crawled. She turned away, gripping Anna's hand tightly. That night, the streets outside their safe house were alive with noise, cheers, car horns, church bells. People were celebrating, but inside, Diana couldn't shake the chill that lingered. She stood by the window while Anna slept, the rain tapping softly against the glass. Marcus joined her, holding 2 mugs of tea. "He's cornered," he said. "Tomorrow the jury starts deliberating." "It's almost done." Diana shook her head. "He's too calm. Men like that don't accept defeat. They destroy everything around them first." Maya came out of the next room, her laptop still open. "She's right. I just got word from one of my contacts at the station. Gray's company lawyers are moving assets offshore. He's preparing to vanish if the verdict goes against him." Marcus set his cup down. "Then we make sure he doesn't get the chance." "How?" Deanna asked. Maya's eyes gleamed with quiet fire. "We tell the world before he can hide. Tomorrow morning. Every document, every transaction, every threat, everything he's done goes public. If he's going down, he's taking his empire with him." Diana stared at her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Do it." As midnight approached, the city lights glowed gold against the wet streets. The sound of the river blended with the distant murmur of celebration. Diana sat beside Anna's bed and whispered, "We're almost there, baby. Just one more day." Anna stirred in her sleep and murmured, "Did we win, Mama?" "Not yet," Diana whispered, brushing a tear away, "but soon." Outside, thunder rolled again over the city, a warning, a promise, and a heartbeat all at once. By sunrise, the city felt tense enough to snap. The courthouse steps, usually empty at dawn, were already swarming with reporters, protesters, and police barricades. The day everyone had been waiting for, the day of the verdict, had finally arrived. From the window of the safe house, Diana could see the news vans lined up like soldiers. Every screen in the city glowed with the same banner. The People's Sifs, Thomas Gray. Verdict day. Anna sat on the couch, dressed in her yellow bravery dress again. She held her rabbit close, but didn't smile. "Mama," she said, her voice small. "Does it hurt him when people tell the truth about what he did?" Diana kneeled beside her. "It should," she said softly. "Because the truth burns when it finally gets through the lies." Maya appeared from the next room, dark circles under her eyes, clutching her laptop. "The files are live," she said. "Bank statements, NDAs, emails, every secret Grays tried to bury. It's all over the internet now. The world knows everything." Marcus grinned faintly. "So the match is lit. Now we just see what burns," Maya said. A knock on the door startled them all. It was Officer Callahan, his face drawn but determined. "The DA's office wants you at the courthouse," he said. "It's time." As they drove through downtown, Diana couldn't help but notice the crowds, men and women holding signs that read "Justice for Evelyn," "Believe the Voice," "Truth Doesn't Break." Some people cheered as the car passed, waving, crying, thanking them. Anna pressed her nose to the window. "Mama, they're happy." Diana smiled weakly. "They're hopeful, baby. That's different, but it's something." Inside the courthouse, the atmosphere was electric. Every seat was filled. Every camera red light glowing. The judge entered, and silence fell like a blanket. Thomas Gray sat at the defense table, surrounded by his legal team. He looked thinner now, paler. The arrogance had dimmed, though the faint sneer remained, like a scar he couldn't hide. The jury filed in, 12 faces that had seen more of human cruelty than they'd ever wanted. The foreman, a gray-haired woman with tired eyes, held the slip of paper that could change everything. The judge cleared her throat. "Members of the jury, have you reached a verdict?" "Yes, Your Honor," the foreman said. Every breath in the room seemed to stop. The clerk unfolded the paper and read aloud. "In the case of the People versus Thomas Gray, on the charge of aggravated assault, the jury finds the defendant guilty." A sound broke loose in the courtroom, not applause, not cheers, but the collective exhale of a world holding its breath too long. Evelyn buried her face in her hands and sobbed. Marcus let out a hoarse, "Yes," while Maya covered her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. Diana clutched Anna to her chest, trembling. "It's over, baby. We did it." But Anna looked up at her, wide-eyed. "No, Mama," she whispered. "He's looking at us." Diana turned. Across the courtroom, Thomas Gray's gaze locked onto hers. His face was unreadable anger, disbelief, and something darker all flickering beneath the surface. The bailiff approached to handcuff him, but Gray didn't resist. He stood slowly, fixing his cufflinks like a man still pretending to control the narrative. As the bailiff led him away, he leaned toward Diana just enough for her to read his lips. "This isn't the end." A shiver ran through her, but she didn't flinch. "It is for you," she whispered back. Outside, the courthouse erupted in noise, cheers, chants, the wail of news anchors fighting to be heard. Reporters crowded them the moment they stepped out. Microphones thrust forward. "Mrs. Williams, how does it feel to win? Miss Torres, what happens next? Mr. Hall, will you go back to the hotel? And then?" The crowd parted for Evelyn. She moved toward Diana, tears streaking her face, her steps hesitant but sure. The two women met in the middle of the chaos. Evelyn reached out, taking Anna's small hand in hers. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved me and my child." Anna smiled shyly. "You saved yourself too." The cameras caught it all, the woman who survived and the child who refused to stay silent. The image spread within hours across every network, every headline. The voice that shook the powerful. Later that night, the four of them sat together in the quiet of the safe house. The noise outside had faded to a hum. Rain pattered against the windows again, soft and rhythmic. Marcus flipped through the channels until he found a news segment showing Gray being escorted into a federal van, his wrists bound, his empire crumbling behind him. The reporter's voice said, "Thomas Gray faces a maximum sentence of 10 years in federal prison, with additional charges pending. Prosecutors call this verdict a landmark moment for victims of domestic abuse and systemic silence." Diana exhaled slowly. 10 years, she murmured. "It doesn't seem enough." Maya shook her head. "It's not. But it's something. It's the first time a man like him has to look up at the people he hurt instead of down." Anna curled up on the couch, her rabbit tucked under her arm. "Mama," she said softly. "Is he going to say sorry?" Diana brushed a curl from her forehead. "Maybe not. Some people never do." "Then I'll say it for him," Anna said sleepily. "I'm sorry I made you scared that night." Tears pricked Diana's eyes. She hugged her daughter tightly. "You didn't make me scared, sweetheart. You made me brave." As the night deepened, Maya closed her laptop and leaned back in her chair. "You know," she said quietly, "I think we're part of something bigger than just this trial. This city will talk about what happened for years. Maybe other people will finally start to speak." Marcus nodded. One voice at a time. Outside, the rain slowed to a mist. Church bells rang again, faint but clear. Diana watched her daughter sleep, her small face peaceful for the first time in months. She whispered to herself, "He thought he could buy silence." But he never understood truth doesn't die when it's spoken. She looked out the window toward the city lights shimmering across the Mississippi, and for the first time in a long while, she believed in tomorrow. The morning after the verdict dawned brighter than it had in weeks. Sunlight spilled through the lace curtains of the safe house, warm and golden, carrying with it the sound of church bells and laughter from the street below. For the first time in a long time, New Orleans felt alive again. People weren't whispering about fear anymore, they were talking about hope. Diana woke to the smell of coffee and the faint hum of Maya's laptop. Marcus was at the stove, frying bacon in an old cast-iron skillet, the sizzle mixed with the smell of toast and rain-soaked air drifting through the open window. Anna sat cross-legged at the table, drawing on a napkin. When she noticed her mother, she grinned. "Mama, look." I drew the courthouse. Diana leaned over to see the picture, a tall building with a sun above it, and in front, a small girl holding hands with two grown-ups. "That's you, and me, and Miss Maya," Anna said proudly. Diana kissed the top of her head. "It's beautiful, baby." Maya glanced up from her screen. "You two made the front page of every paper in the country," she said. "The Times, the Post, even the international outlets. They're calling it the voice that broke the silence." Marcus chuckled, flipping the bacon. "That's got a nice ring to it." But Diana didn't smile. She felt grateful, yes, but also heavy, like victory came with its own weight. She poured herself a cup of coffee and looked toward the window. "I just don't want her whole life to be about this," she said quietly. "She's 6 years old. She should be thinking about cartoons, not courtrooms." Maya closed her laptop gently. "Then let's make sure this isn't the end. Let's make it a beginning." Before Diana could respond, there was a knock at the door. It wasn't the sharp rap of a stranger, it was steady, familiar. Marcus opened it, revealing Officer Callahan, hat in hand, smile faint but genuine. "Morning, folks," he said. "Didn't mean to interrupt breakfast." "Come in," Diana said. "There's coffee." He nodded gratefully, stepping inside. "I just came to tell you something in person. The federal sentencing hearing's set for next month. Gray's being moved to a facility in Baton Rouge until then. Maximum security." Diana let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "So it's really over." "Almost," Callahan said. "But there's something else. The department's been flooded with letters, thousands of them, people writing from all over the country. Survivors, mothers, even school teachers. They say your daughter gave them courage." Diana blinked. "Letters? For Anna?" "Yep," Callahan said, smiling. "You might need a bigger mailbox." Anna beamed. "People wrote to me?" "Yes, ma'am," he said kindly. "They sure did. Said you reminded them what bravery looks like." Maya's eyes shimmered. "We should do something with that," she said. "A project, maybe. A foundation." Diana tilted her heel. "A foundation?" "Yeah," Maya continued. "For people who can't afford to fight back. For the women who don't have cameras or lawyers or anyone to believe them. We'll call it the Light Project." After Anna, Marcus nodded. "A place where people can go when they're ready to speak." Anna's small voice broke in. "Can we have cookies there too?" They all laughed, and the heaviness in the room lifted just a little. By afternoon, word had spread. Reporters camped outside the safe house, not for scandal this time, but for hope. Donations started pouring in, once Maya announced the project online. Churches sent volunteers, lawyers offered pro bono work, and one local radio host even promised a weekly segment to share survivor stories. That night, Diana took Anna to Jackson Square. The air was cool and clear, and the city glowed with music, street performers, jazz horns, and the sound of laughter echoing between cobblestones. Anna ran ahead, her yellow dress fluttering like sunlight. "Don't go too far," Diana called. Anna turned, giggling, and spun in a circle. "Mama, look, everyone's smiling." Diana walked toward her, her heels clicking softly against the stones. "Yeah, baby," she said. "Maybe they're smiling because someone reminded them how." They sat on a bench near the cathedral, the Mississippi glimmering in the distance. A musician played a slow, soulful tune on his trumpet. Anna leaned against her mother's arm, sleepy and content. "Mama," she murmured, "when I grow up, I want to help people too." "You already did," Diana whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "But I want to help more," Anna said. "Like you and Miss Maya and Mr. Marcus. I want to make sure nobody gets hurt again." Diana wrapped an arm around her and kissed her hair. Then you will, sweetheart. Because you already know what love is, and that's where it starts. As they sat there, Maya joined them, carrying 2 cups of hot chocolate. For the bravest mother and daughter in New Orleans, she said. Diana smiled. You sure about that? Maya looked out over the square. I think the city decided for me. Later, when they walked back to the car, a stranger stopped them. An older woman with silver hair and a church pin on her lapel pressed a hand to Diana's arm. You don't know me, she said softly, but I watched the whole trial. My daughter went through something like that years ago. She was too scared to speak. You and your little girl, you gave her a voice. Diana didn't know what to say. She simply nodded. Eyes glistening, the woman smiled gently and whispered, God bless that child. She's got the kind of courage this world's been missing. As they drove home, Diana glanced in the rearview mirror. Anna was asleep again, her rabbit tucked under her chin. The city lights reflected in the car window, streaks of gold and blue flickering across her face. For the first time in months, Diana felt something deep in her chest, peace. When they pulled up to the house, she whispered to Maya, He tried to take everything from us, our jobs, our peace, our safety, but he gave us something instead, Maya said quietly. A reason. That night, as Diana tucked Anna into bed, she whispered, The world's listening now, baby. You made them listen. Anna stirred and smiled without opening her eyes. Then we did good, Mama. Yes, Diana said softly. We did good. Outside. The city slept under a quiet sky. Somewhere across the river, a new sign was being painted. The Light Project. For every voice that refuses to stay silent. A month passed, and the world moved slower again, though for Diana, it would never be the same. The Light Project had gone from an idea whispered over coffee to something real, something beating. The small office space they rented on Street Charles Avenue smelled like fresh paint and determination. Flyers covered the walls. Every voice matters. Truth doesn't hide. You are not alone. Maya sat behind a desk covered in folders and takeout cups. We've had 27 calls this week, she said. Some just need someone to talk to. Others, they want help pressing charges. Marcus leaned in the doorway, sleeves rolled up. And we've got volunteers, lawyers, social workers, even a retired judge. Seems people finally want to stand on the right side of things. Anna was drawing in the corner again. Her crayons scattered like tiny bursts of color. She looked up. Are we helping people now? Diana smiled from where she was sorting mail. Yes, baby. We're helping a lot of people. Anna nodded solemnly. Good. Because people were sad before. They all laughed softly, though the truth in her words lingered. Outside, the city buzzed with the rhythm of late summer. Newsstands still carried photos of Thomas Gray, though now his name came with a single word. Sentenced, 10 years. No parole. His empire was gone, his properties sold, his company bankrupt. The world had finally turned its back on him. But Diana knew justice wasn't tidy. It didn't end with a gavel or a headline. Justice lived in the quiet choices people made afterward, what they built from the ruins. That afternoon, a woman arrived at the office. She was maybe in her 30s, her eyes tired but kind. She clutched a worn envelope in her hands. Are you Mrs. Williams? She asked softly. Diana stood. Yes. Can I help you? The woman smiled faintly. You already did. My sister was in a situation like Mrs. Royce. She saw your story and decided to leave. She's safe now. She handed Diana the envelope. She wanted you to have this. Inside were 2 things. A small silver cross on a chain, and a note written in looping handwriting. For Anna. To remind her that light doesn't always have to shout to be seen. Diana swallowed hard. Thank you, she whispered. When the woman left, Maya said softly, You know that's the 3rd letter like that this week. Yes, Diana murmured, and I hope there'll be more, By evening, the office had quieted. The volunteers gone home, the phones finally still. Marcus turned off the lights, leaving only the soft glow from the desk lamp. "You know," he said, "I used to think people like Gray would always win. Too much money, too many friends in high places." Diana looked up. "What changed your mind?" He smiled faintly. "A 6-year-old with a louder heart than most grown men." She smiled back. "You're not wrong." Later, at home, Anna sat in her room, holding the silver cross in her palm. "Mama," she said, "was that man the one who hurt the lady? Was he always bad?" Diana paused. "I don't know, baby. Maybe once he wasn't. But when people start thinking they're better than others, they forget how to love." Anna frowned, considering that. "So, love makes you good again?" "Sometimes," Diana said. "And sometimes, love just keeps you from becoming bad." Anna nodded as if she understood more than a child should. "Then I'll always remember to love." The next morning, the Light Project officially opened its doors. Reporters came, of course. But this time their cameras weren't hunting scandal. They were there to witness something being rebuilt. Maya stood at the podium in front of a modest crowd: community leaders, volunteers, families, and survivors. She spoke first. "This foundation isn't about one case or one man," she said. "It's about what happens when silence ends. It's about the voices that rise when fear finally breaks. No." Then she gestured to Diana, the woman who made it possible. Diana stepped forward, her heart pounding. She looked out at the crowd and saw faces she'd never seen before, but all of them familiar somehow. Faces of people who had been quiet for too long. She took a breath. "I don't have fancy words," she began. "All I know is that we got here because a child saw something wrong and didn't look away. I wish I could tell you I wasn't afraid that night. But I was. I still am, some days. But fear doesn't get the final say, truth does." The audience was silent, eyes shining. Diana continued. "This place is for every person who thought their pain didn't matter. For every woman who stayed quiet because she didn't think anyone would believe her. You matter. You're seen. You're heard." She glanced toward Anna, who was sitting in the front row beside Marcus. The little girl was swinging her feet, grinning wide. "This foundation," Diana said, voice trembling but sure, "isn't just about standing up to power. It's about standing together. Because when we do, no one stands alone." Applause filled the room. Cameras flashed. But for once, Diana didn't mind the light. Afterward, people came forward to shake her hand. Some cried. Some just whispered thank you. Anna darted between them, showing off her drawing of the new sign. "The Light Project. Hope grows here." As the sun dipped low, casting golden streaks across the room, Marcus turned to Maya. "You think this'll last?" Maya smiled softly. "It has to. Because the people who started it aren't going anywhere." That night, when the crowds were gone and the lights dimmed, Diana locked the door and stood outside for a moment. The street was quiet. The city warm and alive. Anna tugged on her hand. "Mama, can we go get ice cream?" Diana laughed. "After everything we've been through? Yeah, I think we earned it." They walked down the street together, their shadows stretching long in the lamplight, and as they passed by a shop window, Diana caught a glimpse of their reflection herself, tired but unbroken, and her daughter, still radiant with innocence. For the first time in months, Diana smiled and believed it. The darkness was finally behind them. Autumn crept softly into New Orleans. The air grew crisp. The oak leaves turned bronze, and the sound of jazz drifted lazily from street corners again. The city seemed to exhale after a long, hard fight. For Diana and Anna, life began to take on the rhythm of something close to normal mornings, filled with school lunches and laughter, evenings with homework and the hum of the television instead of courtroom whispers. Yet even peace, Diana realized, had its ghosts. One quiet Thursday morning, Diana walked Anna to school. Parents waved, teachers smiled, and for the first time, people recognized her not as a victim's mother but as Diana Williams, founder of the Light Project. Strangers stopped her to say thank you. Some hugged her, some cried. When she bent to hug Anna goodbye, her daughter whispered, "Mama, can I tell my class what we did?" Diana smiled gently. "Of course, baby. Just remember, it's our story, but you get to tell it your way." Anna nodded proudly. "I'll tell them we helped make bad things stop." "Ah, perfect," Diana said. As she watched Anna disappear through the school gates, a man's voice startled her from behind. "Mrs. Williams?" She turned. A reporter she didn't recognize stood there, holding a notepad. "Sorry to bother you," he said quickly. "I'm with the Times, Picayune. I'm doing a follow-up piece on the trial. Would you be willing to comment on Mr. Gray's appeal?" His stomach tightened. "Appeal?" He nodded. "Filed this morning. His lawyers claim new evidence alleging jury bias and procedural misconduct. They're pushing for a retrial." Diana felt the ground shift beneath her. "No," she whispered. "He's in prison. He can't." The reporter hesitated, realizing he'd struck something raw. "I'm sorry. I thought you'd already been told." Diana turned away, her heartbeat thudding in her ears. The sound of children laughing behind the school fence felt suddenly distant, unreal. She forced herself to breathe. He wasn't free. He wasn't here. But the thought of him reaching out from behind bars sent a chill through her anyway. She called Maya immediately. Within minutes, they were back in the small office of the Light Project. Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard, scanning news feeds. "He's doing it," she said grimly. "His lawyers filed early this morning technical appeal, claiming media influence tainted the jury pool. It's weak, but it'll get attention." Marcus slammed his hand against the desk. "He's trying to rewrite the story." Diana sank into a chair. "He's not done until he breaks something. That's who he is." Maya looked up. "He can't undo what's been done, Diana. The world saw what he did." "Maybe," Diana said, staring at the floor. "But he's good at making people doubt what they saw." Later that afternoon, Diana went home and found Anna sitting on the porch steps, feeding pieces of cookie to a stray cat. "Hey, Mama," Anna said cheerfully. "You look sad." Diana crouched beside her. "Just tired, sweetheart. Grown-up stuff." Anna nodded like she understood perfectly. "Sometimes you just gotta breathe." Diana smiled weakly. "Who taught you that?" "Miss Ellen at school," Anna said. "She says breathing helps when you're scared." "Miss Ellen is very smart," Diana murmured. That night, after Anna was asleep, Diana sat at the kitchen table staring at her phone. Every news station was replaying the same headline: "Thomas Gray files appeal." Could the verdict be overturned? The words glowed in the dark, like a wound that refused to close. She called Maya again. "What if they let him out?" "They won't," Maya said. "Even if the appeal gets heard, he won't walk free. He's out of allies, but I won't lie, it'll stir everything up again. Reporters, trolls, the whole storm. Then we'll weather it," Diana said softly. "We've done it before." The next morning, Marcus showed up early with fresh beignets and coffee. "Figured you might need these," he said. Diana laughed for the first time in 2 days. "You always know when to bring sugar," he smiled. Bad news tastes better that way. By mid-morning, supporters started visiting the Light Project office again. Women who had followed the case, men who'd written letters of support. They didn't come with fear, they came with resolve. One woman, maybe 50, with silver hair and tired eyes, approached Diana quietly. "We heard about the appeal," she said. "Don't let him win again. We're all still standing with you." Diana's throat tightened. "Thank you," she whispered. When she told Anna about the appeal that evening, the little girl frowned. "But I thought the bad man went to jail." "He did, baby," Diana said gently. "He's just trying to make people forget what he did." Anna crossed her arms. "Then we just remind them." "Oh," her mother blinked. "Remind them?" Anna nodded, her voice firm. "We tell the story again. Like when we light candles in church, you do it again so people don't forget the light. Maya smiled when Diana repeated those words the next morning. That kid's wiser than most philosophers. Yeah, Diana said, looking toward the office window, where sunlight streamed through. Maybe that's what we'll do. A reminder. 2 weeks later, the Light Project hosted a public vigil. Hundreds gathered in Lafayette Square, holding candles that flickered against the cool night air. There were speeches short, steady, honest. Survivors spoke their truths. Musicians played quiet gospel tunes. And at the center of it all, Diana stood with Anna by her side, a single candle in each of their hands. When the crowd fell silent, Diana spoke. They say the past can come back, she began. But so can courage, so can truth. This candle isn't for what we lost, it's for what we found when we refused to stay quiet. Anna squeezed her mother's hand and whispered, now nobody can forget. And for that night, under the soft glow of 100 small flames, it felt true. The world could try to twist the story again, but the light would keep burning. As the last note of a hymn drifted into the sky, Maya turned to Diana and said quietly, whatever happens with that appeal, he already lost. He just doesn't know it yet. Diana nodded, watching her daughter's candle flicker against the dark. Maybe someday, she said. The world will understand that light doesn't shout, it stays. And above them, the cathedral bells began to toll again, steady and sure, echoing through the night like a heartbeat that refused to fade. Winter arrived slowly, the way it always did in New Orleans, not with snow, but with a heavy stillness that made the city feel smaller, more intimate. The lights of Christmas hung across Street, Charles Avenue, and the Mississippi rolled by with quiet authority. The world outside seemed to move on. Yet inside Diana's heart, there was always the faint hum of waiting for the next hearing, the next threat, the next headline. The appeal hearing for Thomas Gray was set for January. It wasn't a full retrial, but it was enough to stir old ghosts. For weeks, the news had been filled with speculation. Some pundits called it a last, desperate reach for power. Others whispered that Gray still had friends in the right places. At the Light Project, the phones rang constantly. Supporters, reporters, survivors who wanted reassurance that this wouldn't erase their hope. One evening, as the rain tapped against the window, Maya looked up from her laptop. The judge has been selected, she said. Judge Randolph Clay. He's known for being fair, but cautious. Marcus frowned. Cautious means he hates attention. Gray's lawyers will try to play that. Diana sighed, rubbing her temples. All I care about is that he doesn't let Gray out on a technicality. Anna, sitting on the floor with her crayons, looked up. Mama, are we going back to court? Not this time, baby, Diana said softly. Other people will do the talking now. Anna nodded seriously. Then we should still pray for them. The next few days were restless. Diana barely slept. She'd catch herself watching the news late at night. The flicker of the TV lighting the dark room. Every time she saw Gray's face calm, unrepentant, she felt her pulse quicken. He still looked like a man who thought the world owed him an apology. On the morning of the appeal, Maya, Marcus, and Diana gathered in the office to watch the live feed. Anna was at school, blissfully unaware that the monster from her nightmares was speaking again. The camera showed Gray sitting beside his lawyers, his prison uniform replaced by a dark suit. His hair was shorter, his expression more measured, but his eyes still carried that familiar coldness. When his attorney stood to address the court, Diana felt her stomach tighten. Your Honor, the lawyer began, this case was poisoned by media bias from the start. The jury was influenced by nationwide coverage and emotional manipulation. My client was convicted not on facts but on fear. Maya muttered under her breath, fear he created. The prosecution responded swiftly. The only manipulation was Mr. Gray's continued attempt to silence victims. The evidence was real. The abuse was real. And justice was real. Hours passed like days. Outside, the rain turned into a steady storm. Lightning flashed, thunder rolled, and inside the office, no one spoke. Every word from the defense felt like acid, every rebuttal like a breath barely caught. When the judge finally returned after deliberation, the feed went silent for a moment. Then Judge Clay's voice filled the room. After review of the appeal presented by the defense, the court finds no procedural errors, no evidence of jury bias, and no justification for retrial. The original verdict stands. Appeal denied. Maya gasped. Marcus let out a low whistle. Diana pressed her hand to her mouth, her eyes flooding. "It's over," Maya whispered. "For real this time." Diana exhaled shakily, her whole body trembling with relief. "Thank God," she murmured. "It's finally over." But Marcus shook his head. "No, it's finally beginning." He was right. Within hours, the news spread. Social media exploded with celebration. Crowds gathered outside the courthouse again, this time waving candles instead of protest signs. Justice held. That was the headline everywhere. At home that night, Diana sat with Anna on the porch, wrapped in a blanket. The air smelled of wet magnolia and wood smoke. Across the street, someone had hung a string of golden lights that shimmered like stars. "Did we win again, Mama?" Anna asked. Diana smiled. "Yes, sweetheart, we did." Anna looked thoughtful. "Does that mean the bad man is gone forever?" "Yes," Diana said. "He's gone. He can't hurt anyone anymore." Anna leaned against her shoulder, sighing in relief. "Then can we stop talking about him now?" That question hit Diana harder than she expected. She wrapped her arm around her daughter. "Yes, baby, we can stop talking about him. From now on, we talk about what comes next." "What comes next?" Diana looked up at the night sky. "Something good. Something that grows." In the weeks that followed, the Light Project flourished. Donations doubled. Volunteers came from neighboring states. They added a legal aid division, a counseling line, even a children's program called Small Voices, Big Heart's Anna's idea. On the day they launched it, the office was filled with laughter and the smell of coffee and donuts. Anna stood proudly by the banner she helped paint, her tiny handprints forming the border. Maya gave a short speech. This started because one girl refused to look away. But it continues because none of us did. As applause filled the room, Diana looked at her daughter and felt the ache of something she hadn't known. She missed peace, full and unshaken. Later that night, after the guests had gone, Diana sat alone in the quiet office. She looked at a framed photo on her desk, Anna, smiling, holding her candle at the vigil. Beneath it, someone had written in pen, "Be the light that fear cannot touch." She turned off the lamp, leaving the small golden glow from the hallway spilling across the floor. It looked like dawn. Outside, the city hummed with life again, buses, laughter, jazz. And in that sound, Diana heard something she hadn't in a long time, the steady rhythm of a future she could believe in. She whispered to herself, "It's over." Then, with a deep breath, she added, "And it's ours now." Spring returned to New Orleans like an old friend, warm and forgiving. The air smelled of rain and magnolias again, and the city pulsed with music, the brass horns of jazz floating through open windows, the laughter of people walking hand in hand down Royal Street. For the first time in what felt like years, Diana woke each morning without dread. The Light Project had grown faster than anyone expected. They'd moved into a bigger building near the river, a 2-story brick structure with tall windows and ivy creeping up the sides. On the front door, painted in gold letters, were the words, "The Light Project, a home for every voice." Inside, the rooms buzzed with life. Survivors filled the lobby, volunteers offered coffee, and the faint hum of printers mixed with the chatter of people rediscovering hope. Diana stood in the middle of it all, clipboard in hand, watching it happen. A place that once existed only as a dream in Maya's voice and Anna's drawings had become something living. Marcus walked in carrying a box of folders. "We got 3 more sponsorships," he said proudly. "1 from a local law firm, 2 from churches." Maya grinned. "You mean the same firm that used to represent Gray's company?" Marcus laughed. "Guess they're trying to wash the blood off their name." Diana smiled faintly. "Good. Let them. Every hand that helps rebuild is a victory." Anna ran into the room, her hair in braids, her school backpack bouncing behind her. Mama, guess what? What, baby? My teacher said I can bring my class here next week. We're doing a kindness project. Maya bent down. And what's your project called? Anna puffed her chest proudly. Little lights. Everyone laughed. Marcus knelt beside her. That's a good name, kiddo. World could use more of those. The day rolled on and the comfortable rhythm of progress calls answered. Letters mailed, stories shared. By late afternoon, the office was quiet again. Only the soft hum of the ceiling fans remained. Diana sat at her desk, looking through the mail that had arrived that morning. One envelope caught her eye, no return address. Just her name written in uneven handwriting. She opened it carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No threats this time, no anger. Just a few simple words. Because of you, I left. I'm alive. Thank you. She stared at it for a long time, her vision blurring. For all the noise, the chaos, the battles they had done it, for moments like this. Maya appeared in the doorway. You okay? Diana smiled through the tears. Yeah, she whispered, more than okay. Later that week, they hosted an open house for the community. Dozens of people came, neighbors, survivors, reporters, even police officers who had once doubted them. The mayor sent a letter of commendation. Local musicians played soft blues near the doorway. As the evening sunlight poured through the windows, Diana took the small stage. Anna stood beside her, holding her hand tightly. I don't think I ever planned to be here, Diana began. A year ago, I was just a waitress trying to keep my head down. Then one night, everything changed because a little girl wouldn't stay quiet. She looked down at Anna, smiling. She saw something wrong and did what so many adults were too afraid to do. She spoke. The room was silent. People leaned forward, drawn to her words. This place, Diana continued, isn't about what we lost, it's about what we found. Courage doesn't always look like shouting. Sometimes it looks like standing still when the world tells you to sit down. Sometimes it's a child with a shaking voice saying, stop. Applause broke out, long and heartfelt. Afterward, a man approached her, middle-aged, his tie loosened, his eyes weary. Ma'am, he said quietly. I used to work for Gray. I saw things I didn't stop. I told myself it wasn't my business. But your daughter, she made me realize it always was. Diana placed a hand on his arm. Then you're doing the right thing now. He nodded, voice thick. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. When he left, Marcus joined her at the window. You ever think about what would have happened if you didn't step in that night? Diana looked outside, where the street lamps were flickering on. Sometimes. But then I remember Anna would have still found her voice. I think that's what she was born for. Maya came over, holding a glass of champagne. To voices that won't go quiet, she said, raising it. Diana smiled, clinking her glass gently. And to light that doesn't burn out. That night, when the guests were gone and the city outside glowed gold, Diana and Anna walked along the river. The air was warm, the moon bright, the water whispering against the banks. Do you think people will forget someday? Anna asked suddenly. Forget what? What we did? Diana looked down at her. Maybe some will. But not everyone. You see, baby, the world forgets noise, but it remembers light. And you started something that'll keep shining long after we're gone. Anna thought about that, then took her mother's hand. Then we should never let it go out. Diana squeezed her hand gently. We won't. As they stood there, the bells from St. Louis Cathedral began to ring again across the water, the same sound that had echoed through their darkest nights. But this time, the bells didn't sound like warnings, they sounded like promises. And for the first time since that terrible night in the ballroom, Diana believed completely. The light they had sparked was no longer theirs alone. It belonged to everyone who dared to stand, to speak, to see. Diana squeezed her hand. You can be all three if you want. Just don't ever stop being brave. As they turned the corner toward home, the sound of a church bell echoed through the warm night air. It was the same bell that had tolled during their darkest nights, but now it sounded softer, peaceful, like a song remembering its melody. Diana looked down at her daughter, the small hand she held, the light that still followed them everywhere they went, and thought, "This is what healing sounds like." The shadows were gone, the fear had faded. All that remained was the quiet, steady hum of life rebuilt, and a light that refused to go out. The morning of the ceremony came with clear skies, the kind of blue that seemed almost new. The city of New Orleans was awake, early streets swept, flags raised, the sound of jazz spilling softly from the cafe on the corner. Today, Diana Williams was to receive the governor's medal for civic courage, but in her kitchen, things looked the same as always. Pancakes sizzled, Anna's backpack sat open on the table, and sunlight fell through the lace curtains in ribbons of gold. "Mama," Anna said between bites. "Are there going to be cameras again?" "Probably," Diana replied, pouring more syrup. "But I'll try to smile like I'm not nervous." Anna grinned. "You'll do fine. Just say what you always say. Be kind, be brave, be loud when it matters." Diana laughed softly. "You've been listening." "I always listen," Anna said. "You're my hero." Those words sank deep. Diana reached over, brushing a crumb from her daughter's cheek. "You're mine too, baby." By noon, the courtyard of the State House was filled with people, officials, reporters, families, survivors, and community leaders. Banners fluttered in the soft wind. The Light Project volunteers wore shirts that read, "Truth lives here." Maya and Marcus stood near the stage, both trying not to cry before things even began. The announcer's voice echoed over the speakers. "For acts of exceptional bravery, compassion, and service to justice, the state of Louisiana proudly honors Mrs. Diana Williams and the Light Project Foundation." Applause thundered through the courtyard as Diana stepped onto the stage, her heart pounding. Anna watched from the front row, sitting beside Evelyn Royce, whose quiet smile said everything words couldn't. The governor, a tall man with kind eyes, placed the medal around Diana's neck. The medal felt heavy, but right. He whispered, "You gave this city something we'd forgotten: faith in what's good." When the applause faded, Diana stepped to the microphone. For a moment, she couldn't speak. The crowd waited, silent and patient. She took a breath. "A year ago, I was just trying to protect my daughter," she began. "I didn't mean to start anything. But sometimes, courage doesn't ask permission. It just shows up, even when you're scared." A few heads nodded in the crowd. The governor smiled faintly. "I didn't stand alone," she continued. "There were people who stood beside me when it was hardest to breathe: Maya, Marcus, Evelyn, and a 6-year-old who reminded me that silence only helps the wrong side." She turned slightly toward Anna, who waved shyly as the crowd chuckled. "I learned something through all of this," Diana said. "Justice isn't a courtroom. It's a choice we make every day, to tell the truth when it's easier to lie, to care when it's easier to turn away. And courage isn't about never being afraid, it's about doing what's right even when fear's sitting in your chest like a stone." The audience was utterly quiet now. Even the cameras seemed to pause. She looked over the crowd, her voice softening. "This medal isn't just mine. It belongs to everyone who's ever been told to stay quiet. Everyone who's ever been made to feel small. You're seen. You're heard. And you matter." Applause rose again, long and strong, echoing off the marble walls. Anna clapped so hard her little palms turned pink. Evelyn was crying openly now, and Maya and Marcus hugged each other like proud siblings. When the ceremony ended, people came forward to shake Diana's hand, take pictures, share thanks. A group of high school students from Baton Rouge asked for her autograph. An older woman pressed a rosary into her hand and whispered, "You made my granddaughter believe again." Later, as the sun began to set, Diana and Anna walked through Jackson Square together. The crowd had thinned. The bells from St. Louis Cathedral rang in the distance. Slow and solemn, the air smelled faintly of coffee and rain. "Mama," Anna said quietly, "does this mean the story's over?" Diana smiled at the question. "No, sweetheart. It just means we finished the first chapter." Anna thought for a moment. "Then what's the next one called?" Diana looked out at the horizon, where the river shimmered gold. "Maybe, The World That Listened." Anna nodded approvingly. That's a good title. They stopped near the riverbank, where street musicians were playing a soft tune on brass instruments. A small crowd had gathered, swaying gently to the rhythm. The melody was familiar, a song of resilience, of sorrow and grace. Anna took her mother's hand and whispered, "Mama, listen, it's like the city is saying thank you." Diana smiled, her eyes bright with tears. Maybe it is. For a long while, they stood there, mother and daughter, bathed in the glow of twilight. Around them, the city carried on alive, imperfect, but awake. Evelyn's foundation was helping women across 3 states now. Marcus was training volunteers for their first satellite center. Maya had been invited to speak at Harvard about media and justice. And the Light Project had become more than an organization, it was a movement. But none of that felt as important as this. 1 woman and 1 child, standing quietly by the river, knowing that what they'd done mattered. Diana bent down and whispered, "Remember, baby, the world doesn't change when the powerful fall. It changes when the unheard finally speak." Anna looked up at her, her little voice clear against the hum of the city. "Then we'll keep speaking." Diana nodded. "Always." The trumpet swelled, the crowd cheered softly, and the bells chimed once more over New Orleans. The light they had sparked that night, the light born of defiance, compassion, and truth, burned steady and sure, carrying through every window, every heart, every quiet corner that had once felt forgotten. And as the last note faded into the dusk, it left behind not silence, but a promise that courage, once found, never truly goes out. The story of Diana and her daughter Anna reminds us that courage often begins in the smallest voices. It teaches that doing what's right doesn't require power, wealth, or status, only the strength to speak when others stay silent. True justice isn't delivered solely in courtrooms, but in the choices ordinary people make every day. To stand up, to care, to believe that one act of kindness or defiance can change the world. The light they sparked shows that even in the darkest places, truth and compassion can guide the way forward, and that no voice, however small, is ever truly powerless.